Hi, I'm Saniel, and thank you for joining me today. Big thanks to Bruce and Lehman of the Integral Stage for inviting me to participate and creating hopefully a helpful additional bead on their mala of different people speaking about non-duality. So I came up with an approach to it. It's called Nonduality 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. And as you see, I've got this chicken scratching here of notes. And to keep it brief, I think I'm just going to kind of read through, comment very briefly, because we're trying to keep these relatively condensed, these contributions. I'm not going to make a lot of integral references here in terms of integral theory, a couple of things here and there. But as you can see, as we go in, and I'll summarize the three of them with a single word in just a moment to get us started, a basic tenet of integral theory is kind of critical in the naming and identification of these three, we could call them stages, better to say expressions of non-duality. So let me go ahead and jump on it. So non-duality 1.0 is transcendence. Non-duality 2.0 is inclusion. Non-duality 3.0 is simultaneity. And Bruce and Lehman invited us to, in effect, pay homage to the pre-modern expressions of non-duality, while, of course, bringing forth whatever our considerations are about what's current and emerging. So here we go. Non-duality 1.0 is transcendence. This opens, in the language of my wife Linda's and my teaching, what we could call the spirit-matter split, or a kind of hyper-yang, aggressive, active dissociation in reality. And it reinforces that split. If we go back to the great, whatever it was, 8th century, considered to be one of the founding fathers of Advaita, non-duality in India, Advaita Vedanta, the non-dualistic end or culmination of the ancient Vedic teachings. Shankara had several axioms about reality that, as Ramana Maharshi, the great modern 20th century sage, pointed out, a lot of people tend to misinterpret and only include the first two. And those first two definitely apply to non-duality 1.0. Number one, only Brahman, or the ultimate divine reality, consciousness, being, is real. Number two, the world or the universe is unreal. It's an illusion. And non-duality 1.0 stops there. It's dissociative. We could say in today's language, there's a lot of spiritual bypassing going on. It is a matter of realizing a self, but that self is entirely transcendental. And moreover, by regarding the world as unreal, there's a nirvanic dualism to it at best. So it calls itself non-dual, but that's by virtue of dismissing the other part of reality as an unreal illusion. It's very fiercely vigilant in relation to and wary of ego and mind. In this context, nirvana, that ultimate reality itself, the selfless condition, the transcendental emptiness. Nirvana is absolutely real. Samsara, or the display of phenomena, is again illusory. Emptiness is the reality, form is unreality, and our essential nature again is pure being consciousness. Non-duality 2.0. Whereas 1.0 is transcendence, 2.0 is inclusion. Of course, the integral orientation of transcend and include. So non-duality 2.0 heals that split or moves toward healing that split. It's about embodying that ultimate reality. It completes an appreciation of Shankara's axioms. Only Brahman is real, the world is unreal. Brahman, number 3, is the world. So that ultimate unconditional reality is the conditional reality as well. It's a period or a process, this Nonduality 2.0, of integration, of association rather than dissociation. There's a transcendental self-embodiment. So embodiment is a primary factor here again. And nonetheless, though, there's still, in effect, a kind of, it's as if from the spirit side or the unconditional, the nirvanic side of the split, we're negotiating an uneasy truce with matter, with phenomena altogether, not just material. And in that sense, we're still very wary of ego and mind as, in effect, the devils that we must be very, very cautious, vigilant not to identify with. And in effect, there's a kind of, we could say, an ambivalent immanence that we're coming into with our transcendence. So nirvana and samsara, to use some of the Vajrayana language of Tibetan Buddhism, nirvana and samsara are the same, but we're not so sure and we've got to be very careful about it. There's a kind of a standoffishness. You can't quite give samsara a really juicy kiss, so to speak, from your nirvanic place. Form and emptiness, from especially the Zen tradition, or I think it's the Heart Sutra. Emptiness is form, but I'm not so sure that form really is emptiness. So again, there's a kind of ambivalence here. But there's an inclusion of the world going on in this disposition. And then non-duality 3.0, to continue and keep moving along here, is simultaneity. So 1.0 transcendence, 2.0 inclusion, 3.0 simultaneity. It's a healing of the spirit-matter split in a much more complete way, really a profoundly deepening recognition that simultaneously the split is real, phenomena are real, the both exist. There's a deepening in this both and paradox. There's realizing underneath the split also of, in effect, a both and of all kinds of otherwise obviously real distinctions. So one is, as we like to call it in our work, Waking Down Mutuality, there's a wound wellness paradox, a simultaneity of great ease, peace, wellness of being, and yet a fundamental distress that seems to inhere in being both infinite and finite at once, with both parts given equal reality in themselves. In some ways, there is simultaneously absolute non-separateness and absolute separateness or distinction. Go figure. So in this condition, there's a fourth principle that we could add respectfully to Shankara, Ramana, and the great Advaitins of old. And that is not just only Brahman is real, the world is unreal, but also Brahman is the world, and the world is Brahman. So there's, again, this simultaneity, this vast world of both andness. So what's going on in this stage then, beyond simply embodiment, although that process continues, and by the way, the healing of the residue of the spirit-matter split continues, and all of our traumas are still there to be worked with, all of our issues, all of our limitations. And what's going on then is that the total world of self and others, or selves and others, including even the multiple selves within us, are simultaneously all revealing of a singular divinity that persists along with all of the relative distinctions. So we're fundamentally deeply at ease and in peace. The ambivalence in our relation between spirit and matter, nirvana and samsara, emptiness and form, no longer pertains. It's as if the ego, the mind, all our traumas are simultaneously held and lived and yet released from the very heart of our existence, allowed to be as they are, and the two and the one continue together, a non-dual, we call it a non-dual multiplicity, and a totality identity of being everything all at once and still being our very real, local, clay-footed selves. So it's clay-footed godness, you could say. So there you have it. Nonduality 1.0 transcendence, Nonduality 2.0 inclusion, Nonduality 3.0 simultaneity. I hope I haven't gone too over long. Bruce and Layman, thanks for allowing us a few extra minutes beyond 10. Thank you all so much for taking this in. I know I zipped through all that. I will say that Linda's and my work is, I would say, being realistic. It's kind of bridging from 2.0 into 3.0. A lot of it is well established there. I'm talking about the community of the work. And we're, of course, doing our best to hang in that 3.0 simultaneity at all times and enjoying it very deeply. So, helping others do the same best we can. Take care, much love, and thank you for your time and attention. I'm Saniel, and I'm complete.